So this would be my version of Orko if he was the ruler of all Eternia from the Master of the Universe world. All I did was take in the Skeletor Revelations body in the Orko from the 2-pack. I'll show you here in a minute. From the 2-pack, Savage He-Man in the Revelations Orko. That's the only thing you really need if you want to do this, except maybe a couple, if the option is there if you want it, 6-inch skeletons. Right now it's Halloween time. They're plentiful everywhere. I got these skeletons up here. You'll be seeing here in a minute from a place called At Home Store, where they were 99 cents a piece. But here's what you need to make this little bit of a custom here. But I'll pop in and out. I know this is kind of long, and I appreciate you watching if you did. So first off, let me start off here by saying, here's that skeleton I was telling you about. They're 99 cents at Home Store. I picked up like 6 or 7 of them, use them for various projects. Just cut the head off, did some dark wash, used a router you'll see here in a minute, and just I multi-put it to the boot just to add something a little different. But here you go. Like I said, thank you guys for watching. I'll pop in and out. Here's where I'm going to use the multi-put to attach to the front of the boot. I should have scuffled up the boot a little bit. Well, I wasn't thinking. But it did work. It actually stayed. I couldn't believe it. This multi-put is some good stuff. Multi-put you can get either from Amazon or Hobby Lobby if you have a Hobby Lobby local or not. But what I mean by scuffing up the front of the boot was I should have put little scratches on the front of the boot so the adhesive had something to cling to. But I didn't think about it, and after I was done, I was like, well, I'm not going to take it apart and do it again. But it actually adhered right to the boot like it was part of it. I mean, that's some good stuff. So here I'm just cleaning up around the skull. I had to cut the skulls down, as you've seen, to make them fit so they weren't sticking out too bad. I did put a little super glue in there as well because I was like worried about if it was actually going to stick. But I just shoved it on there, pushed it down as hard as I possibly could without, losing too much of the multi-put around the sides, and I just went in with the X-Acto knife or whatever and just cleaned it up and went from there. Okay, this is the part that I was dreading the whole time. Not actually cutting through his scarf, but actually cutting the neck down. I never really modified anything that to the point where I actually had to cut down and relocate something like the ball pin or the neck pin or whatever joint. So this is the first time going. I think I cut the neck down a little too much, but luckily for the scarf, you really can't tell anyway. I did have to put some super glue behind the scarf because obviously Skeletor's, his shoulders and chest is bigger than Orko's was. So that's the only thing I did with the scarf. But right here is where I'm dremeling this out. I cut it down to where I marked it down, cut it down, then had to Dremel down into the side of the neck, because right here, as you can see, it's really loose. It's not, you know, I had to go further down. So here it is. I'm going straight through the middle with a drill bit. I put the ball peen, whatever you want to call that thing, the joint, ball, dumbbell, whatever you want to call it, cut one end of it off, and I multi-putted it down in there. But the articulation works because, as you can see on the right hand side of the screen, right there, see, it worked fine. I still have articulation. It still can move around. So it worked out pretty well. Okay, this next part here, I don't know why I really put it in there. This is just a primer. This is straight primer. I want to get rid of that dark purple that Skeletor originally was with this figure. Obviously, because I want to go lighter. I mixed some paints here a little bit later here to match Orko's ears. I was going with a really light blue, but this is just a primer. I'm just showing you the steps. I'm probably kind of boring, but I threw it in there anyway just to show you the steps, you know, by step how I did it. So nothing real fancy here. It's just primering. Okay, here next where I'm going to try to find to match the mix and match color to Orko's ears. I want to go closest to the ears as possible. It's just Createx colors that I use for my main paintbrush stuff. I do go off and use other cheaper brands, but I kind of stick with Createx because it's thinner. It's kind of made for airbrushes. So I think I went 3 drops to this half a little cup here of white to get that color I wanted to get. So I tried several different mixtures when it comes to airbrush paint and thinning them out. I tried thinner, I tried airbrush thinner, I tried Createx reducer, I tried everything. But mine is half distilled to half Createx paint. It seems to work best for me for my airbrush. So this came out really great in my opinion. This time for me was the best application of paint I did because it's smooth as can be. This paint went on so smooth, it looked just so perfect. Probably the next one I do, I'll probably never get it like this again, but this, I guess, I don't know what happened. It just, everything fell in place with this one. This is the smoothest paint job I've got yet. Anyway, so now, I went over these with black primer and didn't like it for the boots. So I figured, well, I don't want to keep on adding colors to it because I already have to put a red on it. So here's where I'm going black primer. Didn't like it. And here in a second, I'll show you, I go right back to the white primer again. So I went back and just primered it white for a brighter color. First I was going for a dark red, decided to go with a bright red. I don't know, it just didn't look right to me. The feeling wasn't there, so to speak. I know that sounds weird, but it just didn't feel right. So that's where I ended up at, is going back with a coat of white primer on the boots. There at the bottom of the foot, just in case you're wondering, is just silly putty. It's just a lot easier sometimes just to just cover something up with silly putty. And there's the red, just straight red right out of the can. Well, of course, half distilled water, half red. And I just liked it. It just felt right. I know I said that again earlier, previously, but here's where I'm just going to fill it in red. Just love that bright red. Okay, here's the finished product. I think it looks really good. Well, at least so much for the boot. Now, doing the skull, I wish I would have dark washed the skull before I put it on the boot. I did that kind of backwards. So if you guys ever do something like this and you get your somewhat to a finished product like I did with this boot, exception of the toenails, now I have to be careful about getting it on the boot. Now, if I've done this before I put it on the boot, I wouldn't have to do this and be so worried about getting it on the boot. That there, just right there, a beginner's mistake, which I'm a beginner. I'm not trying to say that to be whatever, but yeah, it's that I don't know why I did that like that. It made no sense. I was thinking too far. I was excited about doing this project, and I just wasn't thinking about that part. So if you're ever going to do something like this, make sure you do all your dark wash before you add it to the actual piece that you're putting it on. Right here for the belt, I used iron walt. I know it sounds stupid, but that's what the name of it is. Then I went with some just basically opaque red around it, maybe 2 coats. I didn't want the red too bright, so I left it at 2 coats. So that was on the belt first. Then I decided I wanted these little rivets here that I'm pointing at to pop. Oddly enough, I went out of the box and I used the antique white. I was kind of worried about that because I got this looking really smooth. So I went in, took my time, hit every rivet as best as I could. And I tell you, man, sometimes when you think of something, just go with it. Don't second guess it sometimes, because when it's done, I think it really made his skirt, or whatever you call those things, his belt and whatever, they made it just stand out. It just separated everything in a way where it wasn't overdone. Now we're going to the fingertips. I just went with the straight dark iron walt. I was going to go purple, but I think that would be more of a Skeletor thing. So this is in a really dark, close to black as it could be without it being black, if that makes any sense. It's from Art Folk, and you can get it anywhere. Get it at Walmart, you can get it at Hobby Lobby, Michael's, whatever you want to do. But I don't know if you've seen it or not in the video here or not, but I'm using those magnifying glasses that are like glasses actually. And I tell you, man, that's the way to go. But yeah, now I'm gonna go apply to be at a nail salon. Okay, there's the boots were done. Now here again, that iron waltz, whatever the hell, that's a stupid name, but a little bit of that and a drop of black. The perfect. I just wanted a little bit more darker than normal. These, as you can see, the actual figure is covered up with a plastic bag and some painter's blue tape. Here's my biggest fear, because anything black, opaque, dark is runny, messy, and it goes everywhere. Especially when you're trying to go from baby blue to black. I wanted him to have bracelets, some sort of bracelets around his arms, because it looks, what I did was I took the blue tape, ran it down his sides, masked it off to make it look like a bracelet. Best way I can explain it, Wonder Woman's wrist bracelets. But this is a little more over exaggerated. I made the bracelets out of the blue tape, and then I just went in and just went as dark as I could with this without making it runny. Now with black, be careful if you're spraying this, because as you can see here, it's a little bit of a glaze. When you see that glaze, stop using the airbrush. I don't know everything, but what my experience was, because I'm trying to get something done quickly for no reason, it starts to run, then it turns into water spots and shit like that. Take your time. When you see it glaze up, just use the natural air out of the airbrush gun to dry it off and hit the other side. I'm back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. By no means am I trying to be an airbrush expert, because I'm not. I'm just trying to I do these videos so if it helps somebody that's beginning like myself can learn something from it. That's how I usually do it when I watch videos. Something that somebody does that out of the, they do it normally all the time, and it's weird, like, oh, there's that subtle little things you can pick up from watching other people do stuff. You can make it your own and make it better. So this part, like I said, was, scary, because black on baby blue can be scary. I got lucky. This whole project I got lucky on because everything fell in place. Now to the scarf. I wasn't going to mess with the scarf too much. This is straight purple from Createx. Straight purple. I went in and did some dark wash with the straight purple. Very subtle. Very subtle. You probably can't see it on the screen here or in the video, but in person, it's enough to make it very, very subtle. That's all I did. I didn't want to use black. I just did straight purple. It got to where I needed to be. Now here we go. Here's me trying to make flames again for the 100th time. I did lava a few times in past projects. This is what I wanted to do, but I was kind of worried about doing, because I looked on several different tutorials on YouTube, and there's some good ones, how to make flames, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it the way they did it for some reason. So I did it this way. I'm sure there's people that do this way too with the aluminum, but I just got the shape I needed with it, and I ran lines all the way up it, as you can see right here. Ran lines all the way up it. Up and down, up and down, up and down. Just like that. That's all it was. And I hot glued it to the side of the pumpkin. And then it took me several tries to get it where I needed to be. But you see these sticks? Those are dowel rods from Walmart. They're $1.27 for like 20 of them. I went and used a wire brush to put some grooves and old grooves in it, like it would be an old witch broom. And just scuffed it all up, and I ran even razor blade, as you can see right here, down it, just to scuff the crap out of it. I mean, just tear it up. Because Orko, I would think he's an old wizard, so going with the old school pumpkin Halloween thing here, but that's about it. And for now, and I don't remember exactly how I did it, but yeah, look at me, just keep going, just keep putting holes in it. For some reason, I want to go with the black. Me and black primer now for some reason, because I was so afraid of it in the past. I thought I was going to get some deep shadows, but I really necessarily didn't have to go with a black primer. Then I tried to hit it with some highlight. I mean, this would work in a different situation. But Orko is so bright and colorful, I kind of keep it kind of that way with the pumpkin. So I went in with another white primer to hit some high spots. Then I went in with a red. After I did the red, I came in with the orange. After a couple, there you go, straight orange, wicked orange, pearl, whatever orange, whatever it was. And then I came in and just covered the whole thing in orange. Then I went in, after I was done this, I was like, okay, man, how am I going to get these flames look like flames without it looking like a 5-year-old did it? Here's with opaque, no, not opaque, yeah. Here's primer, just straight white primer. I went in, carefully went around the flames. Well, my hot glue frames, if you want to call it that, my hot glue flames. Flames, not frames, if I could speak. So then went in with the opaque yellow. This was a learning experience for me as well as I'm going. So this is the best I could come up with. If this helps you out, then fine, that's cool. But I off screen, I didn't film everything, but I had to do it over a couple times because I just couldn't get it. So I just went with it, man. So I went with a bright yellow, and I'm sure this is a common sense thing. This is nothing I made up or I came up with. But then after I did that, I went through different places, gave it some opaque red, as you can see on the plate right there. And then I took either purple or black and just airbrushed. I dry brushed it on top of the flames. That was about it, and then I super glued the stick on it, called it the day. But that's about it, man. That's about it. And this was a fun one. I'll let you guys finish watching it, but like to say thank you for watching. This is a long one. Yeah, I did use a dark purple, by the way, not a black, on the outside of it to make it look like it's burnt. It just worked out that way for me, and I used some pastel colors here, and I went around it, put some shading around the pumpkin so it didn't look like it went from the pumpkin to the flames. No transition at all. The pastel, I use that a lot as well, but just went in the cracks there with some pastel colors and green on top of the pumpkin and called it the day. That's it, man. That's all she wrote. If this helped out anybody, I hope so. It was fun to do, and like I said, this is kind of a long one. I appreciate you guys if you've been sticking around, and thank you for watching. Until the next one.